When companies work with sensitive data, right, one of the key challenges doing access control in a traditional way is kind of like for each pattern, you need to create a role. So for example, you'd want to see people, or you need to restrict access, let's say, for somebody to only see certain columns. So in the past, what we do is like we make a copy of the data of that table without that column. But as you go more and more granular, this really results in like an explosion of roles. It becomes hard to maintain, right? You're trying to do something and you need to now request for like 20 roles. A more modern approach is to leverage attributes for that, and then also tags, right, to make this more flexible. Can you talk us through an example of where you've seen this work really, really well in practice?
Well, what usually happens is, you have 1,000 roles with, a different mix of, people and what they can see and what they can't see. And usually maybe you end up with 100 people where you have like 1,000 different combinations of these type of access controls. And in the previous company I worked for, yes, this was in place. It was very painful because, every change in role you would have to request, and you would have to add the people to, and then you would have to then sync that and apply that to the particular data set or whatever you were giving them access to. But what we did is we used that, and we call that the entitlements table, essentially. And that's your attributes, basically. And then all you had to do is bake those attributes, into a policy, into your data product. And at the end of the day, it was packaged up as a data product. And then all you were doing was matching users that wanted access to that data product. You were matching the attribute on that user, which is your entitlements table, to the policy, baked into the data product. The acceleration was people trusted that there was actually a system in place, that they didn't have to really worry about creating a new group with a new set of attributes of people, in place.
We're having more people work with data. Everybody sees the value in it. We're also we have a generation that's really like technically like fit. What role do you see being able to like audit your platform in all of this?
I think the whole audit thing and the traceability, is really quite non-negotiable when it comes to, the regulations, and, even, an external auditor come in and ask, how do you know who's using your data? Where can I find this customer in all your systems? And if the same as, the GDPR regulation is a customer can call you up and say, please remove me from every system. And you need to be able to do that. And I think that in the past, people have not done that. To me, that's certainly a big risk. But not only that, from a compliance perspective, but you kind of want to know who's got access to your data, who's using your data, and why. I think it's important that you really have that transparency in there to know the value of what your data is providing.
Talk me through the challenge of doing sensitive data classification at scale. How have you seen this happen in practice, and how do you think we could apply or make this happen at scale?
Every company has their own classification, and they usually how they control these classifications is they ask the user to say, okay, what data are you going to be using, and how are you going to be using it, and what's the sensitivity of it. But you start your project, you then get an additional requirement, that is maybe we need some patient data in here, we need some internal user data, whatever. Do you then go back to your original security control and say, actually, the requirements have changed? In my experience, probably not. And now you're exposing, some data. And I think what companies really want to do is they don't really want to think about it. Yeah, they want some kind of automated data classification that, classifies all this data for them. Yeah, because maybe the rules will change, the classification will change, and the descriptions. They don't want to then go back and reclassify and read all the new rules. They want to, they want this to happen automatically. context is another big thing, and if you bring it in with another piece of data, maybe it becomes, this highly sensitive personal identifiable data, but maybe on its own it's not. We need to get to a point where, this is maybe done in more of a computational way rather than expecting our developers or end users to think about this.
So at the core of most data strategies and data initiatives, at the end of the day, there is a implementation, right? And at the core of that, typically there's a data platform where data is being stored and consumed through various forms and ways. What are some of the best practice considerations that you have developed over the years and that you think people need to consider as they try to build an enterprise data platform?
I like to start at the services at the top. Yep. And these services, are consumer services or, data producer services or governance type of stewardship services. And, a service could be something like, how do I find data I'm looking for my use case? And from that service comes, what capabilities do I need to allow my consumers to be able to find data in my platform? And so that's the capability. And that then boils down to the bottom layer, which is really kind of the tech and the integrations. And for me, the secret sauce really is the integrations. In a good data platform, you're building those integrations to fulfill those services at the top. That it hides the complexity, away from the developers, the consumers, the stewards, so that really all they are interacting with the platform. Ultimately, you want to get to a place where your platform is as self-service as possible. And, that is a journey, absolutely. No company just immediately, provides a data platform that is pure self-service. I can guarantee you that. But I think that this is the key, is to really start looking at the services, and do not start with technologies